The media brief has resumed. The media brief, which began just a short while back and then paused, has resumed. Let's dip into
who the shooter is. It's primarily standard procedure of any suspicious packages. In this case, there was identification of suspicious packages around where the shooter was, and so we deployed, in an abundance of caution, bomb assets to make sure that those were cleared for investigators to move safely in the area. We're still working on, it's still an active crime scene, so I'm not going to say that the scene is 100% clear at this time.
Why are there any Secret Service agents here right now for the press conference?
The Secret Service wasn't available for the press conference at this time.
I understand
What packages are you talking about? You're talking about packages, but the suspicious packages like what? You're the shooter?
Really anything. I don't have specifics on what they were looking at, but you know, there's people in the crowd will leave bags as they're fleeing the scene like this. So any suspicious packages we have to treat as it may be an explosive device.
And then how quickly, this goes in, I guess, the Secret Service, you're not here to talk about it, yes, but when you guys jumped into action, all along the way, and were able to take down that shooter, how quickly did everything, and who ended up taking him out?
So it was immediate, and it was, we're still trying to figure that out. So we'll wait till we have more definitive information regarding that investigatively.
What about the person in the crowd? Do you have any information about how they were killed?
My understanding was it was from the shooter, but again, those will be details that are released later.
Do you search homes or apartments as a part of your method of identifying the individual?
So if that's where the leads take us, absolutely.
Was Donald Trump hit with a bullet, do you know for sure, or was it potentially something else that could have?
I don't have that specific information as far as the injuries to the former president.
I understand you're not releasing the suspect's identification right now, but as you know it, is this person known to you guys? Is he somebody that you guys have been looking at due to threats he's possibly made online, et cetera, et cetera?
Again, the information that we currently have, we're looking at that obviously very intently, and as we know that information, we'll release that as well. So we'll need to plan another time for a follow-up press conference. We're looking at all investigative leads and all everything from, and that's why we asked the public, because I'm sure there'll be cell phone video, there'll be all kinds of information that we'll use to fully flesh out exactly what happened here.
I know you're saying you can't say what type of gun it is, but do you know how many shots were fired?
I don't.
And
I don't have that information as far as that'll come out in the investigation as well.
Is there an identification tonight on the other victims?
As far as the civilians,
civilians that were injured and killed?
Yeah.
So we do have identification on those. We're not prepared to release it at this time. We have notified a number of family members, but they have not had an opportunity to notify extended family and things. I would confirm for you that we did have one individual killed, and I know I heard somebody say about 2 victims. There were 3 in total besides the former president. So 2 critically wounded, 1 killed.
At this point, do you know if they were sitting near each other and where in relation to the former president were they?
I don't have their exact seating by individual. Again, that'll all be part of the investigation, but their shots were scattered somewhat, and so they weren't just into one particular location.
you're saying just one fatality as of right now?
Yes.
The shooter and 1 fatality.
The shooter plus 1 fatality.
Okay.
So there was 1 victim of the shooter who was killed, and then the shooter was killed.
And then 2 incredible.
Yes, ma'am.
Witnesses say they saw a semi-automatic rifle used by the shooter. Can you share any more details of it? That's what you
I've heard those reports as well, and again, we do have a good idea of what the weapon was, but again, that's all part of the ongoing investigation. And I'm not trying to be cagey about that. When the SAC talked about the need to be very methodical and to be cautious with that scene, we are doing just that. We don't want anybody else getting hurt, and candidly, there are some concerns that we'll be able to talk more about later on about just what those concerns are and continue to be.
Why don't you step off to the shooter's family yet?
That's all part of the investigation.
After the event, there were a lot of really angry people. Are you monitoring? Have there been any threats in response to this? Are you worried? Have there been any specific threats?
That's certainly a concern, and we're monitoring that whole situation. I mentioned that we're bringing a lot of assets to bear, and so like the FBI, utilizing their analysts, we also have the Pennsylvania Criminal Intelligence Center. We will utilize the resources of our intelligence division and the Criminal Intelligence Center to be able to monitor for concerns about any threats, regardless of the side of the issue or the political spectrum. We want to make sure that we try and avoid any further violence.
So no, nothing specific so far?
No, sir.
Without identifying them by name, can you say anything about the other folks who were injured or killed? Were they adults, men, male, female, anything at all?
They were adults, and they're male.
All three?
Yes.
How difficult of a day is this for your department, though, or all your departments to go talk to these family members, including the civilians who were gunned down while they just went to a rally to try and, celebrate, I guess, the upcoming election? What are those conversations like, and how do you kind of get through that?
We have trained investigators, and we're partnered hand in hand with the FBI, again, because we've got some federal violations, some state violations, and so our investigators are going out methodically. We have a large team of investigators that are going out, dividing up these interviews and trying to conduct them as quickly as possible, and then there will be follow-ups. With the FBI asking for people to call in tips, I have no doubt that we will receive a lot of additional information that will also require follow-up. But again, we're working very well together, and it's only a short matter of time until we get through all of those interviews.
How close a call was it for President Trump?
There were no police hit with bullets.
From your experience, how close a call was it for?
I'm not going to speculate or comment on that.
Have any of you talked to the president? Did any of you have any kind of reaction?
No.
Which law enforcement agencies were tasked with securing this particular rally outside of the United States Secret Service? Well,
Secret Service always has the lead on securing something like this, but then they work very closely. And I hate to use the word routine, but it is a fairly routine matter for all of our agencies to work jointly with the Secret Service. And it really depends on the venue, on what information is out there, what number of resources are devoted to it, and we work with them to provide whatever is requested by the Secret Service, but they're the lead in that security.
Was there anything about this venue that made it particularly difficult to secure?
I would defer to the Secret Service to answer that. They would have done the initial assessment.
Was the rooftop part of what was being secured? Was the rooftop, given its proximity to the event, part of that process?
It's my understanding that was outside of the perimeter.
Did this shooter have any previous criminal history?
We're not going to comment on anything about the shooter.
Did any agency deny Trump's team extra security? Any of the agencies that are up there?
Not that I'm aware of.
If Trump had been the nominee already, would he have had additional security for this event?
There again, Secret Service has the lead, and I'm not going to comment or speculate on what may or may not be provided at any given point, depending on their status as a candidate. What I will tell you is that, in my experience, the Secret Service does an excellent job of maintaining security on protectees. They're very cautious. They don't hesitate to ask for resources, and candidly, we don't hesitate to supply those resources.
Colonel, you're asking for the public's help. Can you elaborate and be more specific about what you'd really like to see from the public? If it's videos, photos, personal accounts?
I think the videos and photos would be very helpful, and I think that once the shooter is identified, anyone that has specific information on that shooter, that would be very helpful as well to help us assess motive. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we are absolutely not taking for granted that this was a lone wolf attack, and so we would be looking for any additional information that might point us toward anybody else that may have had a hand in this.
We're just
Sir, at
beginning
this
the
point, what
political
is the
season.
main focus of the investigation? What's the most important thing for you right now, a few hours?
Well, there's not any one single focus. I mean, certainly the immediate focus was life safety, getting the former president out of there and to care, getting care to the other victims, and trying to secure the scene as quickly as possible. It shifted then from a life safety priority to then an investigative priority. And so I guess if I had to point to where we are right now, the single greatest priority would be to identifying a motive and whether there was anyone else involved.
We're just beginning the political season. Are you guys concerned with all of these rallies that happen and how they're set up? Is this going to change maybe the venues?
Again, I would refer you to the Secret Service in terms of what they work out with the campaigns. We will continue to supply resources, as I'm sure the FBI will, and local partners as well.
When this was announced, it was quite a few days in the heads up that people were getting ready to come to this Trump rally. From a law enforcement perspective, when you announce a big event like this, all that time in advance, like a week out, does it give people more time to plan something like this?
Well, I suppose, but there's a balance, I would think, that any of the campaigns on either side try to weigh. I mean, the point of them announcing it, I suspect, is because they want the crowd, and so it's not up to us in law enforcement to tell them when they should announce or how they should announce or how they should conduct it. We offer our best advice, again, working hand in hand with the Secret Service, offer our best advice of how best to secure and protect that venue.
Sir, considering how many people were there, and you have packed in there, and you have somebody in an elevated position with potentially a high-powered rifle, how lucky is it that we were only talking about a couple of victims, as sad and tragic as that is?
Well, we're certainly grateful that we don't have even more victims. And again, in terms of how this could have occurred, that will be part of this after-action report and an investigation that occurs so that we can hopefully ensure that something like this doesn't happen again.
Has an autopsy been conducted yet, or is it scheduled?
It has not been conducted yet.
Do you have an estimate on how many people were at the rally?
I do not.
If somebody has a video or photo, where should they send it?
So we have the 1-800 call FBI if you have audio tips, and then we set up a specific tip line for audio and video, and that's fbi.gov/Butler.
And they should send you just like any video? Like
Anything that anyone has that is related to this incident that they think may be of assistance investigatively, we'll take anything and we'll analyze it and we'll make the determination if it's of investigative value. Go ahead.
So from what you've been briefed on, it sounds like law enforcement only knew he was up there until shots were fired. Is that what you're hearing?
So that is the assessment at this time.
So are you surprised that a sniper was able to fire off a handful of shots at the former president? I mean,
again, we're still working through the security apparatus that the Secret Service had in place, what potentially happened. There's going to be a long investigation into exactly what took place and how the individual was able to get access to the location, what type of weapon he had. All that it is really days, weeks, and months of investigation.
He was able to get off like 4 or 5 shots.
It is surprising, but again, to get all the details of that will come out later in investigation.
Going back to the perimeter of this building, I think it's going to be really difficult for people to understand